Welcome to Stoic Mastery, where we explore timeless wisdom from the ancient Stoics to help you navigate modern challenges with clarity, purpose, and resilience. In today's video, we'll be talking about a powerful emotion that affects all of us: anger. Anger can feel overwhelming and uncontrollable at times, but what if I told you there's a way to take back control? The Stoics, some of the greatest philosophers in history, believe that while we can't avoid feeling anger, we can change how we respond to it. In fact, Stoic philosophy offers practical insights that can help you not only manage your anger, but prevent it from taking control of your life. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all shared profound teachings on this topic, emphasizing that anger is a choice. It's not the situations we face, but how we interpret and react to them that leads to anger. By shifting your mindset and practicing Stoic techniques, you can stay calm in the face of frustration and adversity. In this video, we'll cover 15 key Stoic lessons that will help you break free from the grip of anger. These principles will allow you to maintain your inner peace, no matter what life throws your way. From understanding what is within your control to practicing gratitude and empathy, these lessons will give you the tools you need to live a more tranquil and balanced life. So if you're ready to stop letting anger control you, stay tuned. Let's dive into the wisdom of the Stoics and transform how you handle one of the most challenging emotions we all face. Lesson 1. Anger is a choice. Anger often feels like a reflex, an automatic response to something that frustrates or hurts us. However, the Stoics firmly believed that anger is not something that simply happens to us. It's a reaction that we actively choose. This might seem counterintuitive, especially when you're in the heat of the moment, but understanding this can be incredibly liberating. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you internalize this principle, it becomes clear that external events or people do not have the power to make you angry. It's your interpretation of those events that triggers the emotion. You decide whether to react with anger or with calm and reason. For instance, if someone cuts you off in traffic, your immediate instinct might be to feel enraged. You might think, "That person disrespected me," but in reality, the only thing that happened is that another car moved into your lane. The event itself is neutral. Your mind is the one assigning a negative judgment to it. By reframing the situation, perhaps by considering that the other driver made an innocent mistake or was in a hurry, you can avoid feeling angry altogether. Seneca, another prominent Stoic, advised that when anger rises, we should delay our response. This pause allows us to reflect on the situation and choose how we want to feel. Anger is often a result of acting impulsively. By creating space between the event and our reaction, we gain the power to respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. Moreover, choosing not to be angry does not mean passively accepting wrongs done to you. It means taking control of your emotional state so that you can respond in a way that aligns with your values and goals. Anger clouds judgment and leads to irrational decisions, often causing more harm than good. By choosing calm over anger, you can handle difficult situations with clarity and wisdom. Lesson 2. Focus on what you can control. One of the foundational teachings of Stoicism is the clear distinction between what is within your control and what is outside of it. This principle can dramatically shift how you experience and handle anger. At its core, anger often stems from frustration over things that don't go our way. Whether it's other people's actions, events we didn't anticipate, or outcomes we didn't expect. But as the Stoics teach us, most of these things are entirely outside of our control. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher and teacher, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement embodies the Stoic belief that while external circumstances are beyond our control, we have complete authority over how we perceive and respond to them. Anger arises when we believe that things should be different than they are, yet we lack the power to change them. The problem is not the world around us, it's our attachment to the idea that we can control it. To combat this, the Stoics encourage us to narrow our focus to what we can control: our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes. Everything else, other people's opinions, natural events, societal decisions, or even the weather, falls into the category of things we cannot influence. Once you understand this, the tension and frustration caused by those uncontrollable aspects of life begin to dissipate. Imagine a scenario where a colleague at work gets promoted over you. Your initial reaction might be anger or frustration. You might think, "That's unfair. I deserved that promotion." But ask yourself, did you really have control over the decision-making process? You can control your effort, your work ethic, and your skills, but the decision ultimately rested with someone else. Anger in this case stems from wanting to control an outcome that was never truly within your power. By focusing on what you can control, perhaps improving your skills or reflecting on what you can do better next time, you transform anger into a constructive force. Another aspect of focusing on what you can control is understanding that even in situations of conflict or disagreement, your response is yours to control. Let's say someone insults you. The Stoics would argue that the insult itself has no power to make you feel bad. It's your interpretation of the insult that causes the emotional response. If you choose to see the insult as a reflection of the other person's ignorance or lack of self-control, rather than a personal attack, your emotional response can remain calm and measured. This focus on internal versus external control doesn't mean that we should be passive or indifferent to the world around us. Instead, it empowers us to focus on what we can influence: our actions, decisions, and attitudes. By doing so, we conserve our emotional energy and avoid unnecessary suffering caused by worrying about things that are beyond our reach. In short, when you shift your focus to what's within your control, you free yourself from the frustration and anger that arises when things don't go your way. It's not about controlling the world, but controlling your reaction to it. By internalizing this principle, you can face life's challenges with a sense of calm and clarity. Lesson 3. You are the judge of your emotions. One of the most transformative Stoic principles is the understanding that you, and only you, are the judge of your emotions. While external events may seem like the cause of our emotional reactions, the Stoics teach us that our emotions arise from our interpretation of these events. This means that we have more control over how we feel than we often realize. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, stated, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." This suggests that our emotional responses are not determined by external circumstances, but by how we perceive those circumstances. In other words, the events themselves are neutral. It's our judgment of these events that assigns meaning and emotional weight to them. Anger, frustration, sadness, these are not inherent in the situation but are the result of our internal evaluation of what happened. To fully grasp this concept, think about two people experiencing the same event. Let's say they both missed their flight. One person might react with intense anger, blaming the airline, the traffic, or even themselves for the inconvenience. The other person might stay calm, accepting the situation for what it is and thinking, "I'll catch the next flight. It's no big deal." What's the difference between these two reactions? It's not the event itself. Both missed the same flight. It's how each person chose to interpret the situation. One let anger take over, while the other exercised calm judgment. The Stoics teach that emotions are not automatic responses. They are decisions. When we encounter a situation that might normally make us angry, frustrated, or upset, we have the opportunity to pause and reflect. We can ask ourselves, is this situation worth my emotional energy? What judgment am I making that's causing this reaction? By doing so, we become aware of the fact that we are choosing to react a certain way, and this awareness gives us the power to change our response. This lesson is especially important when dealing with anger. It's easy to blame external factors, someone's rude comment, an unfair decision at work, or unexpected difficulties in our personal lives. But Stoicism encourages us to look inward. The situation may be challenging, but it doesn't have to provoke anger. If we change our judgment of the situation, we can change our emotional response. By practicing this regularly, you begin to understand that you are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are in control. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending that negative feelings don't exist. Instead, it means recognizing that emotions are a choice and you can choose to judge events in a way that aligns with peace, wisdom, and calmness. Lesson 4. Delay your reaction. One of the most practical and immediate strategies the Stoics recommend for managing anger is to delay your reaction. Anger often arises quickly, catching us off guard and leading us to act impulsively. In the heat of the moment, we say things we don't mean or make decisions we later regret. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized that the best remedy for anger is delay. By taking a moment to pause before reacting, we give ourselves the chance to regain control over our emotions and respond more thoughtfully. Anger is a reactive emotion. It's often triggered by something external, a comment, an event, or a situation that we perceive as unjust or frustrating. Our immediate instinct may be to lash out, to defend ourselves, or to vent our frustration. However, when we react quickly, our judgment is clouded by the intensity of the emotion, and we're less likely to make rational decisions. Delaying our reaction gives us time to let the emotional surge subside and allows us to think more clearly. Consider this analogy. Anger is like a fire that flares up suddenly. If you pour fuel on it, by reacting instantly, it spreads and intensifies. But if you give it time, the fire begins to die down on its own. Delaying your reaction works in much the same way. When you take a step back, even for a few moments, you allow your emotions to cool, giving you the clarity to approach the situation with reason rather than passion. In practical terms, delaying your reaction can be as simple as taking a deep breath, counting to 10, or stepping away from the situation. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It means giving yourself space to process them before deciding how to act. When you allow yourself this pause, you're more likely to respond in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals, rather than reacting impulsively out of anger. Seneca also advised us to remember that often, the things that provoke us are trivial in the grand scheme of life. If we rush to react to every perceived slight or inconvenience, we will be in a constant state of turmoil. Delaying your reaction not only helps you avoid unnecessary conflict, but also allows you to maintain a sense of peace and perspective. It's a reminder that not every situation requires an immediate or emotional response. Delaying your reaction is particularly powerful in situations where anger is likely to escalate a conflict. For example, in an argument, taking a moment to pause before responding can prevent you from saying something hurtful or making the situation worse. This pause doesn't signal weakness. Rather, it's a sign of emotional strength and maturity. You are choosing to remain in control of yourself, which is the ultimate Stoic goal. Lesson 5. Anger is destructive. One of the most compelling reasons to manage anger is the destructive impact it has, not just on others, but on ourselves as well. The Stoics were particularly mindful of how damaging unchecked anger can be, and they often warned against its dangerous consequences. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, described anger as a brief madness because it impairs our ability to think clearly and rationally. When we act out of anger, we become a threat to ourselves, our relationships, and the harmony of our environment. Anger can feel powerful in the moment, but this power is deceptive. What seems like a justified emotional response often leaves behind a trail of destruction, whether in the form of broken relationships, damaged reputations, or physical consequences such as stress and health problems. Consider how many people have said or done things in a fit of rage, only to regret their actions when they've cooled down. The damage, however, has already been done. Words cannot be unsaid and actions cannot be undone. This is why the Stoics believed that anger should be treated with caution. It rarely leads to positive outcomes. From a Stoic perspective, anger disrupts the very qualities we should be cultivating: rationality, wisdom, and self-control. When we allow anger to take over, we lose sight of these principles. Instead of acting with reason, we act with impulse, often making decisions that contradict our values or long-term goals. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of staying calm and composed in the face of provocation. He believed that maintaining inner peace was far more valuable than winning a fleeting argument or proving someone wrong out of anger. Anger is also physically destructive. Numerous studies have shown that chronic anger can lead to serious health problems such as high blood pressure, heart disease, and weakened immune function. When you're angry, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing you for a fight-or-flight response. While this reaction might be useful in actual danger, it is harmful when triggered by everyday frustrations. Over time, this constant state of agitation wears down the body, leaving you more vulnerable to illness and fatigue. Moreover, anger affects your mental well-being. It consumes your energy and focus, leaving you drained and emotionally exhausted. When you're angry, it's hard to think clearly or make rational decisions. You become consumed by the emotion, replaying the event in your mind and justifying your anger, which only perpetuates the cycle. This mental and emotional exhaustion prevents you from focusing on productive or meaningful tasks. The Stoics recognize that anger in its essence is self-destructive. It feels powerful in the moment, but its consequences are often damaging and irreversible. Seneca urged us to remember that while anger may seem justified, it rarely leads to anything constructive. Instead, it often makes situations worse, either by escalating conflict or by causing harm to our relationships and ourselves. Lesson 6. Accept imperfection. One of the core principles of Stoic philosophy is the acceptance of imperfection, in ourselves, in others, and in the world around us. Life, according to the Stoics, is full of setbacks, mistakes, and events that do not go according to plan. Instead of resisting these imperfections or getting angry when things don't go our way, the Stoics teach us to embrace them as an inevitable part of life. In fact, by accepting imperfection, we free ourselves from much of the frustration, disappointment, and anger that arise when reality doesn't match our expectations. Epictetus, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, famously taught, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." When we judge situations or people based on an unrealistic expectation of perfection, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Life will never be flawless. People will make mistakes, plans will fall apart, and challenges will arise. If we expect otherwise, we create a recipe for frustration and anger. A key to managing anger is recognizing that imperfection is natural. The Stoics believe that everything in the universe unfolds as it should, according to the laws of nature, even when it doesn't align with our personal desires. By understanding this, we can let go of the need to control everything and accept that things won't always go our way. This acceptance brings a sense of peace and resilience in the face of life's inevitable challenges. For example, when someone at work makes a mistake that affects you, your initial reaction might be anger. You might think, "How could they be so careless?" But upon reflection, you realize that everyone, including yourself, is prone to making errors. Instead of allowing the mistake to upset you, you can choose to accept it as part of the human experience. This shift in perspective helps to diffuse anger and foster a more empathetic and understanding response. This acceptance of imperfection also applies to ourselves. Many people are their own harshest critics, holding themselves to impossibly high standards and becoming frustrated or angry when they fall short. Stoicism teaches us that just as we must accept the imperfections of others, we must also accept our own. Mistakes are opportunities for growth, not reasons to beat ourselves up. By embracing our flaws and using them as learning experiences, we can cultivate a healthier and more compassionate relationship with ourselves. Accepting imperfection doesn't mean we should stop striving for improvement or settle for mediocrity. It means acknowledging that the path to progress is rarely a straight line. There will be setbacks, missteps, and failures along the way. The Stoics believed that the true measure of a person is not in their ability to avoid mistakes, but in how they respond to them. Lesson 7. Practice empathy. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit for managing anger and maintaining emotional balance. While anger often stems from our judgment of other people's actions, empathy allows us to see beyond our initial emotional reaction and consider the intentions, challenges, and limitations of those around us. By practicing empathy, we cultivate patience, understanding, and compassion, which are essential for keeping anger in check. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, frequently reminded himself to view others with understanding rather than judgment. In his meditations, he wrote, "Whenever you are offended at someone's lack of shame, you should immediately ask yourself, is it possible for there to be no shameless people in the world? It's not possible." This reflection highlights a fundamental Stoic principle. People will act in ways that frustrate or disappoint us because they are human. They have their own challenges, weaknesses, and blind spots, just as we do. When we take the time to practice empathy, we move away from reacting with anger and instead try to understand why someone might have behaved the way they did. For instance, if a colleague at work misses an important deadline, your first response might be irritation or anger. You might think, how could they be so irresponsible? But if you practice empathy, you might ask yourself, what challenges could they be facing? Is there something in their personal life that I'm not aware of? This shift in perspective can diffuse anger and open the door to more constructive communication. Empathy also reminds us that most people's actions are not intended to harm us personally. Often, people act out of ignorance, stress, or their own struggles, not malice. By viewing others with empathy, we are less likely to take things personally, which is a common trigger for anger. For example, If someone speaks harshly to you, instead of immediately becoming defensive or angry, you might consider that they are having a bad day or dealing with personal issues that have nothing to do with you. This understanding doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you respond with calmness rather than anger. Furthermore, practicing empathy fosters better relationships. When we show understanding and compassion, we encourage others to do the same. People are more likely to respond positively when they feel understood rather than judged. This can lead to more productive conversations and problem-solving, rather than escalating conflicts driven by anger. Empathy also extends to ourselves. Just as we practice understanding towards others, it's important to cultivate self-empathy. We are all prone to making mistakes, having bad days, or falling short of our expectations. When we can be kind to ourselves and recognize our own humanity, we are less likely to become angry at ourselves for perceived failures or shortcomings. Lesson 8. Anger weakens you. One of the most crucial insights the Stoics offer about anger is that it doesn't make you stronger. It makes you weaker. While it might feel powerful in the moment, anger ultimately clouds your judgment, undermines your self-control, and diminishes your ability to act rationally. In contrast, true strength lies in maintaining your composure, thinking clearly, and responding to life's challenges with calmness and resilience. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of mastering our emotions. He believed that emotions like anger, if left unchecked, have the power to control us and lead us away from reason and wisdom. In his teachings, he often warned that anger blinds us, making it difficult to see situations clearly or make good decisions. This is why anger weakens you. It strips you of the clarity and self-control necessary to navigate life effectively. When you're angry, your focus narrows, and your ability to think rationally diminishes. You become reactive rather than proactive, which often leads to rash decisions and regretful actions. In the heat of anger, it's easy to lash out at others, say things you don't mean, or make choices that you'll later wish you could undo. In these moments, anger takes over, and you lose control of yourself. This is the essence of weakness, being at the mercy of your emotions rather than in command of them. Think of a time when you acted out of anger. Did the situation improve, or did things get worse? More often than not, anger escalates conflicts, damages relationships, and leaves us feeling drained. It weakens us emotionally by causing unnecessary tension and frustration, physically by raising our stress levels, and mentally by distorting our judgment. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, knew the importance of staying calm in moments of pressure. He wrote in his Meditations, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." He understood that a calm, rational mind is far more powerful than one ruled by anger. When you remain composed, you can assess situations with clarity, make informed decisions, and maintain your dignity, even in the face of adversity. This is true strength, the ability to face life's challenges with reason and self-control. Moreover, anger often leads us to act against our own best interests. When we are angry, we may sacrifice long-term goals for short-term satisfaction. For instance, in a fit of anger, we might say something hurtful to a loved one, damaging a relationship that took years to build. In doing so, we undermine the things that truly matter to us, simply because we couldn't control our emotions in the moment. In contrast, when we master our anger, we maintain control over our actions and can stay aligned with our values. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather understanding that emotions like anger are temporary and that we don't have to act on them impulsively. The true power lies in recognizing anger for what it is, a fleeting emotion, and choosing to respond with wisdom and strength instead. Lesson 9. You are bigger than your emotions. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism is the belief that we are not defined by our emotions. While emotions are an inevitable part of the human experience, the Stoics teach that we are bigger than our emotions and that we have the capacity to observe, understand, and manage them. Emotions like anger may arise naturally, but we do not have to be controlled by them. Instead, we can choose how we respond to them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that we have the power to distinguish between things that are within our control and those that are outside of our control. Our emotions fall into the category of things we can control, not in the sense that we can prevent them from arising, but in how we choose to handle them once they appear. Anger may flare up in response to a situation, but we can decide whether to let it govern our actions or to step back, reflect, and choose a more reasoned response. Recognizing that we are bigger than our emotions gives us the power to create a gap between the stimulus, whatever provoked the anger, and our response. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflects on the importance of maintaining composure and mastering one's emotions. He emphasizes that while we may feel anger, we are not the anger itself. We are something far greater, rational beings capable of making deliberate, thoughtful choices. This ability to rise above our emotions is what sets Stoic philosophy apart from a purely reactive way of living. When we understand that emotions like anger are transient and not an essential part of who we are, we begin to take back control over our lives. We can feel the emotion without letting it dictate our behavior. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather accepting them as natural occurrences that don't have to define us. For example, if you're in a situation where someone insults you, your initial emotional response might be anger. However, when you recognize that this emotion is separate from your core self, you can choose not to act on it impulsively. You might think, yes, I'm feeling angry, but that doesn't mean I have to respond in a destructive or harmful way. You can allow the emotion to pass without letting it consume you. This perspective also fosters self-compassion. Sometimes we may feel angry or upset with ourselves for not being perfect or for making mistakes. When we realize that our emotions are just temporary states and not a reflection of our true nature, we can treat ourselves with more kindness. Instead of identifying with the anger and letting it dictate how we see ourselves, we can acknowledge it, learn from it, and move on. The Stoics believed that the ultimate goal is to cultivate a state of inner tranquility, where external events and emotions don't shake our sense of who we are. By recognizing that we are bigger than our emotions, we can maintain this sense of peace even when life gets difficult. We may feel anger, sadness, or frustration, but we don't have to be ruled by these emotions. We have the power to rise above them and respond with wisdom and calm. Lesson 10. Reflect on your mortality. One of the most powerful practices in Stoicism is memento mori, the reflection on mortality. The Stoics believed that contemplating death is not a morbid or pessimistic exercise, but a way to gain clarity, perspective, and appreciation for life. By remembering that our time is finite, we are able to prioritize what truly matters and let go of trivial concerns, especially anger. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics, regularly reminded himself of the inevitability of death. In his Meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This reflection on mortality encouraged him to focus on living in accordance with his values and to avoid getting caught up in fleeting emotions like anger. When we understand that life is short, we realize that much of what provokes us to anger is insignificant in the grand scheme of things. When anger arises, it often feels all-consuming, as if the situation at hand is the most important thing in the world. But when we reflect on our mortality, we see the bigger picture. Will this moment of frustration matter tomorrow, next week, in a year? When we reflect on the fact that life is temporary, we are reminded to focus on what truly matters: our relationships, our integrity, and our contribution to the world. The Stoics believed that by reflecting on death, we can also cultivate a sense of gratitude for life. When you recognize that each day could be your last, you are more likely to appreciate the moments you have and less likely to waste them on anger or frustration. Instead of getting upset over minor inconveniences or disagreements, you can approach life with a sense of calm and gratitude for simply being alive. Memento mori also serves as a reminder to live with urgency and purpose. Knowing that life is fleeting helps us prioritize what is truly important and avoid wasting time on negative emotions like anger. If you were to imagine that today was your last day, how would you choose to spend it? Would you want to waste precious time being angry? Or would you want to focus on meaningful actions and relationships? This reflection can help you shift your mindset and let go of unnecessary emotional reactions. Furthermore, contemplating mortality allows us to forgive more easily. When you remember that life is short, holding on to anger or grudges seems like a waste of time. People make mistakes. Relationships experience conflict and misunderstandings arise. But when we realize that our time with others is limited, it becomes easier to forgive, let go of anger, and focus on making the most of the moments we have together. Lesson 11. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful practice that has the ability to shift your mindset, dissolve anger, and bring a sense of peace and fulfillment to your life. The Stoics understood that when we focus on what we have, rather than what we lack, we are far less likely to become consumed by negative emotions like anger, envy, or frustration. Practicing gratitude fosters a sense of contentment and helps us maintain emotional equilibrium, even in difficult situations. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, advised that we should regularly remind ourselves of the good things we already possess, rather than constantly longing for what we don't have. He said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This shift in focus, from scarcity to abundance, has the ability to completely transform how we experience life's challenges, including situations that might typically provoke anger. When you practice gratitude, you train your mind to focus on the positive aspects of life, rather than dwelling on what's going wrong. For example, if you're stuck in traffic and feel anger rising, you can choose to reframe the situation by thinking about what you're grateful for. Perhaps the fact that you have a car, that you're headed to a job that supports you, or that you have the time to listen to a podcast or reflect on your day. This simple act of shifting your focus can diffuse anger and replace it with a sense of appreciation. Gratitude also helps you stay grounded in the present moment. Often anger arises because we are either dwelling on past wrongs or worrying about future uncertainties. By practicing gratitude, you bring your attention back to the present and acknowledge the good that exists in your life right now. This focus on the here and now allows you to let go of the emotions that aren't serving you, particularly anger. Additionally, gratitude enhances your relationships with others. When you take the time to appreciate the people in your life and acknowledge their positive qualities, it becomes much harder to stay angry with them. Practicing gratitude in relationships fosters forgiveness, patience, and understanding. Instead of focusing on someone's shortcomings or mistakes, you remind yourself of their good qualities and the value they bring to your life. This can prevent anger from taking root in situations where minor frustrations might otherwise escalate. The Stoics also understood that gratitude is not just about being thankful for the good things, it's about embracing challenges and setbacks as opportunities for growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This perspective encourages us to be grateful not only for the easy and pleasant aspects of life, but also for the difficulties that help us become stronger and wiser. Lesson 12. Train your mind daily. In Stoicism, the practice of training your mind is essential to achieving emotional resilience and clarity. Just as an athlete trains their body to stay physically fit, the Stoics believed that we must train our minds daily to maintain mental strength and composure, particularly when dealing with powerful emotions like anger. By consistently practicing mindfulness, reflection, and self-discipline, we can sharpen our ability to respond to life's challenges with wisdom and control, rather than being overwhelmed by emotional impulses. One of the key exercises in Stoic mental training is prosauche, or mindfulness. This practice involves being constantly aware of your thoughts, emotions, and actions throughout the day. The Stoics believed that by regularly paying attention to how we react to situations, we can better identify patterns of emotional reactivity, such as anger, and address them before they escalate. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself to stay mindful and reflect on his responses to challenges. By doing so, he was able to maintain his composure even under the intense pressure of ruling an empire. Another important element of training the mind is the practice of journaling, which allows for daily reflection and self-examination. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoics, recommended writing at the end of each day to review one's actions, decisions, and emotional responses. Through this exercise, you can identify moments where anger or other emotions got the better of you and explore how you could have responded differently. By making journaling a habit, you develop greater self-awareness and begin to notice the triggers that provoke anger. This awareness is crucial for managing emotional responses in the future. The Stoics also encourage the practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of adversity. This exercise involves imagining potential challenges or difficult situations that might arise during the day and mentally preparing yourself for how you will respond. For example, before starting your day, You might reflect on the possibility that someone will criticize you, traffic might be bad, or unexpected problems could arise at work. By mentally preparing for these possibilities, you reduce the likelihood of being caught off guard and reacting with anger or frustration when they do occur. Instead, you are able to face these challenges with a calm and composed mind. Training your mind daily also involves practicing self-discipline and self-control. The Stoics believed that our ability to master emotions like anger depends on our ability to develop inner strength through consistent practice. This might mean resisting the temptation to react impulsively when provoked, or learning to remain silent in situations where speaking out of anger could cause harm. Over time, this self-discipline becomes a habit and you gain greater control over your emotional responses. Lesson 13. External things don't affect your peace. A fundamental tenet of Stoicism is the belief that external things do not have the power to disturb your inner peace, unless you allow them to. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond to it. This understanding is a cornerstone of emotional resilience and is especially relevant when managing anger. By recognizing that external events, people, or circumstances are beyond your control, you can free yourself from the emotional turbulence they often provoke. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, emphasized this concept in his Enchiridion, where he stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound statement highlights the importance of taking responsibility for your emotional reactions. When something unfavorable happens, it's easy to assume that the event itself is what's causing you distress or anger. However, in reality, it's your interpretation and judgment of that event that leads to your emotional response. Imagine, for example, that someone insults you. Your immediate reaction might be anger, but according to Stoic wisdom, the insult itself is neutral. It's just words spoken by another person. It only has power over you if you give it that power by choosing to be offended. In this way, the Stoics remind us that external events by themselves don't have the ability to disturb our peace. It's our perception of these events that causes emotional reactions like anger. To apply this lesson in daily life, start by recognizing that the external world is largely outside of your control. You can't control other people's opinions, the weather, or unexpected events, but you can control your mindset and attitude. When you accept that external things don't have inherent power over your emotional state, you begin to reclaim control over your inner peace. This mindset helps you navigate challenges and setbacks with greater composure. Furthermore, understanding that external things don't affect your peace can help you maintain perspective. For instance, in a frustrating situation, like being stuck in traffic or receiving negative feedback at work, ask yourself, is this really worth my peace of mind? The answer, more often than not, will be no. By framing the situation in this way, you can prevent anger from arising and instead respond with calm acceptance. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of focusing on what's within your control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is where true emotional freedom lies, knowing that no matter what happens around you, your inner peace is something only you can control. Once you internalize this lesson, you'll find it much easier to let go of anger and maintain a sense of calm, regardless of the external circumstances. Lesson 14. Anger is a waste of energy. Anger, while it may feel justified or even necessary in the moment, is ultimately a waste of energy. This is a key Stoic lesson, one that encourages us to reflect on how we spend our emotional and mental resources. Anger consumes a tremendous amount of energy, often leaving us physically and emotionally drained without resolving the situation that triggered it in the first place. Stoicism teaches us that instead of channeling energy into destructive emotions like anger, we should focus our efforts on constructive responses that help us move forward. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, warned that anger is like temporary madness because it takes over our rational mind and pushes us to act impulsively. It clouds our judgment, making it difficult to think clearly and assess situations objectively. When we are angry, we tend to fixate on the perceived wrongs or injustices we've experienced, which only serves to intensify the emotion. In these moments, we are not using our energy wisely. We are allowing anger to dominate our thoughts, fueling a cycle of frustration and negativity. Think about the last time you were angry. How much time and energy did you spend replaying the event in your mind, justifying your anger, and perhaps even escalating the situation further? In many cases, the anger didn't lead to a productive resolution. It may have even made the problem worse. This is the essence of wasted energy, expending mental and emotional resources on something that doesn't bring about positive change. The Stoics believed that instead of letting anger deplete us, we should redirect that energy toward actions that align with reason and virtue. For example, if someone wrongs you, rather than reacting with anger, you can choose to respond with patience or forgiveness. This approach not only conserves your emotional energy, but also allows you to maintain control over the situation. You avoid the destructive consequences of anger and instead focus on finding solutions or maintaining inner peace. Moreover, anger often leads us to focus on things beyond our control, such as other people's behavior or external circumstances. This misplaced focus is a waste of energy, as it doesn't change the situation. Stoicism encourages us to concentrate on what we can control, our own thoughts, reactions, and actions. By doing so, we use our energy in a way that is more productive and aligned with our values. Finally, anger takes a toll on your physical and mental well-being. It increases stress levels, affects your sleep, and can even weaken your immune system. This unnecessary strain on your body is another example of how anger wastes energy that could be better spent elsewhere, on maintaining your health, pursuing your goals, or cultivating meaningful relationships. Lesson 15. Aim for tranquility. The ultimate goal of Stoic practice is to cultivate tranquility, a state of inner calm and peace that remains unshaken by external circumstances. Tranquility is not about living a life free from challenges or avoiding difficult emotions. Instead, it's about maintaining a sense of equilibrium and resilience, no matter what life throws at you. For the Stoics, true strength lies in mastering one's emotions and reactions, and tranquility is the reward of that mastery. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, frequently wrote about the importance of inner peace. In his Meditations, he reminded himself that while we cannot control the actions of others or the events that happen to us, we can control how we respond to them. Tranquility is achieved when we let go of the need to control external circumstances and focus instead on cultivating a calm and rational mind. Anger, frustration, and other negative emotions arise when we resist the way things are. We become upset when reality doesn't match our expectations or desires. The Stoics, however, encourage us to accept life as it is, to embrace the idea of amor fati, or love of fate. This means accepting that whatever happens is part of the natural order, and that our role is not to fight against it, but to align ourselves with it. When you accept life as it unfolds, rather than constantly wishing it were different, you move closer to a state of tranquility. Achieving tranquility requires daily practice and mindfulness. One of the ways the Stoics recommended developing this sense of calm was through premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. This involves mentally preparing for potential challenges before they happen. By imagining obstacles and difficulties in advance, you reduce their emotional impact when they do occur. This doesn't mean you become indifferent to what happens, but rather that you approach life's difficulties with a calm and prepared mindset. Tranquility is easier to maintain when you're not caught off guard by life's inevitable hardships. Another essential aspect of aiming for tranquility is practicing detachment from outcomes. The Stoics believed that while we should strive to act virtuously and do our best in all endeavors, we must also recognize that the results are often beyond our control. By focusing on doing what is within your power and letting go of attachment to the outcome, you avoid the emotional turmoil that comes from unmet expectations. This mindset helps you maintain inner peace regardless of how situations unfold. Tranquility also involves developing emotional resilience. Rather than suppressing your feelings or pretending that you're unaffected by challenges, Stoicism teaches you to observe your emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. When you notice anger, frustration, or sadness, you can acknowledge these feelings, reflect on their source, and choose not to let them disturb your inner peace. The goal is not to eliminate emotions, but to prevent them from dictating your actions or robbing you of your calm. In conclusion, anger is a powerful emotion that can easily take control if we don't learn how to manage it. By focusing on what you can control, accepting imperfection, and aiming for tranquility, you can stop anger from dictating your reactions. Instead, you can choose to respond with wisdom and resilience, no matter what life throws your way. The more you apply these principles, the more you'll notice a shift in how you experience frustration and conflict. Remember, it's not about never feeling angry again. Anger, like all emotions, is part of the human experience. What matters is how you handle it. The Stoics teach us that our peace of mind is always within our control, no matter the external circumstances. With practice, you can use these lessons to cultivate a more peaceful and balanced life, free from the destructive power of anger. If you found value in these lessons and want to continue your journey towards Stoic Mastery, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. At Stoic Mastery, we regularly share insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and habits that can help you lead a more meaningful and fulfilling life. So, join our community. Leave a comment sharing which lesson resonated with you the most, and make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay calm, stay stoic,